No one's going to watch this and be like, God, I want parenting tips from you guys.
Yeah.
I think the phrase is, if you can't be the example, be the warning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are definitely a
That's
warning.
definitely true.
For all
I think
sorts of
Kobe and
things.
we've got that solid.
A lot of our conversations are mostly about the bits.
And yet Connor and I
That's why
saw
we
none of
bonded
those
so
red
much.
flags and proceeded anyway. Shocking.
When you're wearing rose-colored glasses, the red flags just look like flags. Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That was a good one.
And we need to talk about the parenting stuff before our children get home, at least, because it's much harder to hold a straight face and say, I know what I'm doing, when you see Evie running behind you, like, ah! You're like, yeah, naked, holding something she shouldn't be.
What is up with
why
the
have you got a knife
thing?
in one hand and a hamster in the other? This makes no sense, and I'm angry.
Well, it's another one of those instincts we're missing, clothes, clothes and toilets. So it hasn't really worked its way in yet. Apparently it takes millennia.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Maybe this weird polyester they got us in now.
Yeah, they just flick off their pants and flick off their undies. Like, they're happy to Winnie the Pooh it the whole rest of the day. Like, the top half doesn't worry them. It's just their bottom half. So Connor, when we first discussed the business and everything, and I was like, we're going to be doing videos, we're going to be like sharing our lives and all that kind of stuff. And Connor is deathly private when it comes to stuff on the internet, like things like when we were going to rent a house and stuff, and you have to give your details on the form and stuff. Because no, not doing it. It's like, you have to do this to rent an apartment. He's like, not giving them my details.
No,
so my details are now
not
out
to
there.
view an apartment. They can fuck off. And that place did get binged for selling people's data like 3 months later. So again, fully justified.
I have a rough solution on this. If you have your own domain name or something, or access to a domain name, you just open up a wildcard like on the email that just accepts anything at whatever your email address is. Like if you wrote, douchebag at Wild Creative to me, I would still get it. And what I do is when I sign up for stuff, I try and use their name in the email. So, Disney
where
at
it's
Wild Creative
from.
Or whatever. And then, there's been some exotic, like, are you really, this is where the male enhancement pill thing came from? Like, how did these bastards get this list? Anyway, yeah. So it's, I agree with you. Point. I agree.
I think we're much kinder to our children. But someone mentioned the other week, I was listening to something, and they're like, our generation, Gen X and millennials, have made their children the center of their lives, whereas the ones boomers we were never the center of their lives. We coexisted in their life type of thing, and now we've reverted because a lot of the stuff that we went through, we don't want our children to go through, and so we've overcompensated by making our kids the center of our lives. And so I think there's something in that as well, where we're having less children because we don't want to, this person, we don't want to upset him, so we're only going to have 2 kids and not 5 and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, it's funny because there's all these trends on TikTok. The latest one that I saw was they call them living room kids or bedroom kids. Like essentially that our generations weren't allowed to have their toys and play in the living room. Like you had to have all your toys and play in your bedroom because it was just not allowed. And I was like, yeah, I was definitely a bedroom kid and stuff like that. But then we let Remy take all of his toys into the living room. And then I spend a solid 20 minutes, maybe double now that I'm pregnant because it takes me that long to move around, to pick up all of his little toys from under the couch, from behind the couch, from under the coffee table, and put it in a basket and then take it back to his bedroom at night because nobody wants to wake up to like a fucking chaos in your living room. If you want some
handy tips from people obviously far lazier than yourself, we just put a basket in the lounge room. We now have lounge room toys and bedroom toys. They can move shit between them
and playroom.
As long as they fit in the boxes, you can have whatever you want. We just don't care anymore.
Yeah, I did the basket thing, but he brings out more baskets because I was like, "This is your basket for the living room," and he was like, "Well, I've got this basket. I'll take this out too." He's got like 7 different baskets.
Yeah, we went from having one. I bought these things where you can actually sit on them. They turn into seats, but you can fill the whole thing with toys. And we now have 4 of those plus an additional 2. We just keep adding.
It gets out of hand so quickly.
Oh, out of hand.
Do we? Yeah, in that regard.
You know that test where they say children that don't eat the marshmallow in that science test and delay gratification to get the next marshmallow do better in life. our daughter would fail that test every day of the week. Every single
Try
day.
her
To be
on
fair,
that
I'd probably
test.
fail that test as well.
To be fair, that test is also invalid.
Well,
Get
Is
that
it?
one,
yeah, go ahead and please rant.
So they redid the
He
test,
loves
right?
this.
And then they found out that it's actually about how trustworthy their parents are.
Mm. Yeah, but
So if the kids fully trust that the adult is going to come through with that second candy, they'll wait. If they don't, they're like, I'm going to take a candy now over the potential of maybe possibly candy I will be let down on yet again. So I'm just eating the candy. And it actually has no bearing on their success or ability to control themselves in later life. It's just an indictment on their parents.
I just
Which, when you're doing a study in the
out.
50, you don't blame the parents. You just say, well, the child's a problem, and then you beat them. It was the 50s. Come on. There was like... We still had the cane at school when I went. And I'm like, I don't hit my kids.
What was it?
Sorry,
Spare the
go
cane,
on.
spoil the child. Yeah.
Yeah, spare the rod and spoil the child.
I do love that. My other passion that you could have said, Zach, is random fun facts that nobody ever asked for or cared
Don't
about.
start.
My favorite things.
Oh my
That's
god.
why she married me,
The
'cause
second
I
part of your
never
life is
shut
going to
up.
begin, Sarah, is when you realize they're not asking for those facts because they don't know the fact exists. So you have to help them.
Yes, but also when I do tell them, they also don't care.
No, I love that. Thank you, Connor. I'm going to take that. I'll take that with me. That's a good one. I like that. And
I
it's
do
true.
enjoy the
Trustworthiness.
fun facts.
Mm.
Yeah, I do enjoy them. But also when I say something and he goes, well, wait a minute, I read in a study, and I'm like, I was just telling a fun story. We didn't need to go
Yeah,
and
right.
ruin it with fact.
It needs at
I'm
least 5
enhancing the fun.
citations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite annoying because then everyone gets involved in that conversation. I'm like, the story I was telling was cute and fun, and you've ruined
Now
it.
it's gone.
And actually, one thing I would like to say in that, if you do love the citations, Connor, that's kind of how I'm perceiving doing this stuff and putting our life online. You know that it's not necessarily for us, but then Remy could always come back and find it. You know what I mean?
For citations.
I'm
later.
just to start. There's going to be an argument with the comments are going, well, at 37:45, he said this, and technically that's a mildly correction. Then I'm going to see the comments. I'm like, oh, well, now I have to go and actually check the citation because this is just coming out straight out of my memory, which is unreliable at best. But and then my life gets destroyed because I'm just sitting arguing the base comments of like, no, I think you'll find that Bertram and Theodore in 1973 did this study and this is the result. Here's how you interpolate the graphs below.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to get my work done. Like my kids are going to raise themselves after this.
Well, as one of the few viewers, thank you. You make me sound very educated in the comments.
As one of the only viewers. But in saying that, in terms of your life online, how do you feel about that? Because we have talked about the fact that the kids can come back later when they're older, and there's a little snapshot of time when we were people, not mum and dad, but we were people and we were out there and talking, and yeah, we probably make comments that they're not going to be hugely pleased about, but I think it's quite a nice
Especially
little
me doing
thing,
impressions of Evie with the like, she's going to go, you thought that about me when I was 3? That's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a
Well,
time
I
I can't
capsule,
speak for
isn't it?
y'all. I can't speak for y'all, but for me at least, I'm working to improve mine. I started as a rapper, so this is me helping my algorithm. I don't know about you, but I'm only ways up. So
I was going to say, I've got to show you
You're
Zach's
actually
rap.
all right.
I was going
please,
to be fair, I
Hang
wasn't
on,
blowing smoke.
I'm gonna insert a little snippet
Yeah, you
right
got
now.
it.
We live in a moment, yeah. Que yo te amo, sabor a salud. Tried all the flavors, but never tried you, yeah. Yeah, you are the only one that I'm still thinking of. This can't be real, I've sobered up. Don't think that I'm strong enough, like one.
Yeah, I'm rocking the baby center stage like it's all mine. Time slows for a second as I continue to rhyme into my surprise.
You got it. Because I genuinely was
This is a reminder
terrified
for
when you
future
told
Sarah.
me that. Because I was like, I'm going to now have to watch this and pretend it's really good. Or pretend
you
that, like,
don't. No, you don't.
No, I
No,
was
you
going to
don't.
have to. I
And
barely
to be fair,
knew.
Kevin's really
I'm
bad at pretending.
Yeah.
No, my face
Thank you. I
shows
couldn't figure that.
everything.
Like, this is so
And
great.
it was actually very good. And I was like, pleasantly
It's
surprised.
because there's
remember
other
which
people
one.
on the song. Thank you, though.
I was going to say, did I show you, Connor? I don't know if I did.
You haven't, no. You need a rap intro to the bass line.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a brilliant
It's the
idea.
baseline.
What,
These
you're gonna
bitches be
rap?
fine. Yeah.
Not you. Not you.
I'm an old white guy with no shame, so you know that's
That's
my
me,
rap.
man. That's me. That was my persona.
That was your rap name. Old white guy.
Yeah.
What was the scariest
What was
thing?
the scariest thing of becoming a dad? Scariest thoughts you were having?
Well, mine was like, obviously, you would have had a different experience because you kind of got it from the get go. Mine was the terror I was going to break her. She was very little, and you know, obviously going quite large, and they just hand you this child, and like they give you some like basic instructions, then off you trot. And am I going to drown this child? Hang her upside down. It's an awful lot of responsibility. Like dogs know how to do stuff. They'll run away. She couldn't run anyway. It was mainly like focused terror for a short period there. But then you realize kids bounce and you're like back to normal.
I still remember the first time Evie fell off the bed, and because you were playing with her, and we both freaked out.
Yeah.
And then she was kind of okay. I mean, it could explain a lot because it was tiled flooring. We're both like,
for the cup then. Really freaked. She was also not super happy about the whole experience we've done.
Well, you know, you gone. I'll totally copy your answer there. But from a different time period, because I guess you would have picked them up about a little bit later on in their lives, and they handed them to me after, like, straight out of Sarah.
He was still warm.
Hopefully they stay
still gooey.
Yeah, they're straight on, and then find the boob and all that, and then they're napping, and then they're like, right, go get him dressed, and I'm like, what? So they put me over on a table, and you gotta but everything bends. It's like trying to dress a water balloon, like, it's savage. So yeah, and I fully concur with the fragility of it. We'd been awake for like 2 days or something, or like 18 hours at that point, so it was a long
72.
time. And at least my only quote is, well, we hadn't been awake that long. You was kind of
I did sleep.
There was
I did
parts
sleep a
of
little
it,
bit. Yeah.
but at least the women are on drugs. That's all I'm saying. I was there sober.
Poor you.
Trying to keep everybody laughing. It was fucking hard at 3 a.m., like, goddamn. Anyway, so they hand me this purple thing, and you're like, it's got a name and everything. And then, yeah, every part of them could break, and they're just like, yeah, water. And then one day, I think we were doing a swaddle or something, and his finger just kind of went out to the side, and it went sideways. And I was like, oh, thank God you're all water, mate. Cause like, that could have been permanent.
That could have hurt.
So it's a little bit sad, but not too long before that, I was interviewing one of our friends' husbands, and he was actually a what do you call him in the funeral home? He kind of tends to the body afterwards, and but not. I don't want to call him an undertaker, but like that kind of caretaker, undertaker, something like that. And I was interviewing him about life and stuff for this whole other project, and I said, because he has to exhume them sometimes and help put them to rest and the whole thing. And I said, what's something surprising in your line of work that you think that people don't know? And he's like, well, actually, you're born all water and you die real dry. So,
you use up all your water across life.
Yeah, in a weird way,
It's a good one for skincare.
Stay hydrated.
Yeah, pretty much. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But when it came to Remy, it was just that fragility of like, I am gonna hold this, and I've got calluses from, I wouldn't say factory work, but manufacturing back in the day, and I scratched Sarah, so it's like, this is not gonna go well.
It's paper skin.
Yeah,
I've got a question for Zach, which I already know the answer, but I already
said yes. No, what? Sorry.
It's a good one for anybody who's about to go through childbirth. The husband, anyway. Is what do you say to people to prepare them to witness childbirth?
Do you want me to say this online right now? Is that it?
I think it's such a good answer.
We're here to help.
It's such a good answer. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What, the hunting?
I'm interested.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think hunting. I think I'll come back to your answer. I know it's not ideal, but I have the same thing. I have the same thing to say to. I hope this is the answer that she's talking about, but I have the same thing to say to vegetarians and vegans and stuff. Of course, first, everybody do what makes you happy. All for it, all day. But at the same time, when there's the railing against like meat eaters and stuff like that, I often wonder if we could all, as meat eaters, you have to go through the whole process at least once in your life. You got to deal with a cow, deal with a chicken, deal with whatever, and see it start to finish. And I think that we kind of threw a lot of stuff away when we kind of separated ourselves from that food system. And there's like the thanks and things like that involved, and spirituality, faith. There's those layers, but I think that you kind of see reality for what it is in that instance. And so I really relied on that when it was happening. That that there's like the I don't know. It's not the rawness, but you're kind of faced with the reality, and being partially British, my favorite way of saying you're hungover is I'm feeling mortal, and I think that mortality, you're kind of looking at that in the face. And then when you see birth and things like that, it's the same, it's just, I don't want to say farming, but definitely hunting and being exposed to life in that way. I know it's pretty dark when you think about it, but that was the reality.
Husbandry for a reason.
Well, there you go. And honestly, how the hell were we doing this in the jungle floor, on the jungle floor, and then just like in your home, like that was something that blew my mind when we were dealing with the midwives. She's like, if you have to deliver at home, and I'm thinking, Jesus, like, and I know what it's like a little bit, through all the Googling you can do, imagine like 100 years ago, you know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. And then y'all would go into a tent and, different cultures and whatever. So yeah, it's just, yeah, yurt. There you go. So like, and that's something that gets me through just general life, to be honest, is why I really like history as well, is that just don't want to get too caught up in our current times, like the paper map thing.
Well, I think that the important thing is there's almost no vegetarian dairy farmers, because once you meet cows and you deal with them and interact with them, you realize they're evil, and you need to eat them to stop them. So
to stop them spreading.
I mean, people once you look into their soulful eyes. My mum had 2 bull calves that we were going to raise for beef, and I was more than happy to eat them. So
can get along.
Just jerks. Just trying to feed a calf, and you got to hold the giant bottle, and then like sucking it. And the way they get more milk out of their mother is to ram them. And obviously down there, I do not have an udder that's going to give more milk. I've got the pain center, all right. And bulls have they're good at running things. So after raising those, I was like, these are going to be delicious, and I'm looking forward to this like you wouldn't believe.
Well, I actually, just to round that off, I want to say that I call it the beer problem, and it kind of ties into the paper map thing as well. The idea that if you never do a hard day's labor, you can never really taste beer. Like if you've never done hot gardening work for an entire day and then have a cold beer after it, you've never really tasted it. And I think that there's an appreciation you can only get if you've attempted it yourself or done a lot of work. And I actually. To kind of go back to Kobe's point about like modern kids and we're coddling them and stuff, at least for me, I personally think that while I might give him a sweet now, I'm robbing him of a really good like experience of having gone through something, So, and I try and bear that in mind when it's just like too easy to just hand him a popsicle. It's like, let's earn this popsicle because it's going to taste 20 times better. And that was something I had to learn myself as well. So yeah.
It's an argument that Connor and I have had possibly a few times. I don't want my kids to struggle, but I also don't want to give them everything and hand it to them. I agree. I think you get so much confidence and so much out of life in general that I don't want that to be something that the kids just walk through. And Sarah and I have talked about the trauma side of things, where trauma gives you a bit of personality as you grow up. So how do you give that same experience without the trauma side?
If I may, if I can sum it up like as easy as possible, is our one job as parents is to prepare them for what the reality of the world is, what they're going to have to face as much as possible. So the reality is that you're not always going to have, people that are nice
things
to
you.
You're going to hear no. Things are going to be hard. People are going to tell you that you're not that good, and other people will tell you that you are good, and it's a lot of disappointment, unfortunately. And for anybody, of course, when you love your kids, you're going to want to cushion things as much as possible for them. But ultimately, I think it's just such a huge disservice, because what a whack in the face when they go into the real world and have to go and find a job and live by themselves and all of that, and then realize that it's all a fucking lie. It's so much fucking harder. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I try to do anyway.
I don't know. I partially agree. Only because I know that it is difficult out there. Don't get me wrong, but I just think that there's also a layer of you could see it as something you don't have, or you could take the time to find the appreciation in it. You know what I mean? And actually, that kind of is a bad. It comes from a really bad joke, and I totally owe Remy for this entire philosophy or realization. Is Connor earlier said something about dogs being able to, when they come out, they're kind of useful or something, when you're talking about kids and, they're just like, what can they do kind of thing. Well, I've got a really bad joke in that space around, I was trying to figure out forever what we were internally or inherently good at when we come out, as the species, partially because I used to say, same monkey, new iPhone. And when dealing with technology, don't forget that we're not really adapted for this stuff. But, at the time, when Remy came out, racking it in my brain about it, lions can walk and fight and all that within a week. Horses are walking in 2 days or running in a week or something. That we all have these abilities, and it wasn't until Remy that I realized what the human innate ability is, and that is complaining. We have an unbelievable ability to just tell you what's wrong, and it also taught me that actually some people never learn anything other than that. And being thankful and positive is
important.
No, it is. It is
important. Like,
especially at that age.
It's just the
Says
first
the complainer.
It's like the incomplete sentence. So, and I find this a lot is, this is fucked. This is wrong. This isn't how I want it. Someone needs to do something, and everyone just forgets the last couple of words, and that someone is me. Right? You go ahead and do that, but if you don't ever identify what's wrong, like, you're still sitting in a dirt yurt going, well, I wish I knew how to cook. You've got to identify what's wrong with life. And that's one of the things we try and do with, like, Evan Hux is, I don't want this. You do it. So we have the rule in the house is we won't do things for our kids. Now, I'm bad at, like, obeying that rule, sure. But the rule is supposed to be the help is there when they need it. So Kobe and I, we're their parents, we're their safe space. This is the unlimited support, because the world is a shit place and it's going to smack them around a bit. And I figure there's two options.
They need a safe haven.
You can have a shit home and a shit life outside the home, or you can have a safe home. You've got that base you can build off, and then you can go venturing out into that world that's going to slap you around a bit. But you're at home.
Confidence. Yeah.
And that does build confidence. Every study says that just builds confidence, it builds reliance, it builds their ability to go out and challenge themselves, because they're not feeling like they're risking as much. And so in our house, it's like, you do it yourself. And if you need help, you ask for it. And you will occasionally hear from across the room, Daddy, I need help.
I need help.
You go across, and you explain it, and you do it, and you say, this is how it works. And they ask 2 or 3 more times sometimes, but most of the time, my kids, the experience I have is, particularly Huxley, is I do it. I do it myself. He wants to do it himself, and he will put off asking for help as long as humanly possible, which I think is a really good thing. It is preparing for that life.
Remarkable.
I can do this, but if I need help, ask for
someone's there. How do you guys go about? Because we're kind of at the moment, we're kind of learning more with 2 toddlers at the moment, that you have to tap out sometimes, because your level of frustration just gets to a point. And so even like I yesterday I could hear in Connor's voice from downstairs, because I was working, and the 2 kids were just up in his grill. And I thought, I'm going to pop downstairs and I'm going to move them off Dad for a minute so he can collect himself. And he does that for me too. And obviously we've got Dina here as well. How do you guys handle that in the house?
We have some really good friends who had a daughter first, and then she's the girl, Crystal. She's the one that we got pregnant at the same time with Remy and her Ryan. And that was the best advice that had always stuck with me, when I think we were still pregnant at that point, or we'd just given birth. And they're like, so long as one of you is there to pick up when the other one, only one of you freak out at a time. So if one of you is just like absolutely about to lose it, then the other one swoops in and vice versa. And so long as they have one solid parent who's level-headed, then you're all right. And that was the best advice I ever gotten. So, and often Zach will swoop in, and you can hear it, like they get to a certain pitch and you're like, ooh, no, it's my turn to come in. And sometimes having a fresh, like a fresh person coming into the situation kind of tends to like diffuse it or take the balance off a little bit. So yeah.
Best thing, worst thing about being a toddler parent. Anyone can go.
Best thing,
Aren't they the same thing as the toddler? No, sorry.
terrible.
Sorry.
This is purely like from my position and my opinion, because I'm the mom, but I feel like I gave birth to my best friend, which is like, it's probably like too corny and like sounds overbearing. And I totally understand that it sounds like that, but how it feels to me is like, we have so many inside jokes, and and the fact that you can see him like develop even, and then him creating jokes for you to have inside jokes. Like, I'm talking about those little moments like that is the coolest thing ever. And then I was like sitting there the other day having a conversation with him, and I was like, not a year ago, you couldn't place one word after the other. And now we're having like a full-blown conversation. And that is the coolest thing. Like, you came out of me not speaking a single word, just a blob. And now we're sitting here having a conversation. It's so, so cool. I'd say probably the worst thing is just how much they can test you to your limit. Like, how hard they can make things for you. Like, you love them more than anything in the whole world, but they can get you to the point where you're like so angry and just like feeling the worst that you've ever felt. If you never felt that bad in your life, and yet it's the person that you love the most in the world.
And I've really tried. Like, no, I'm joking.
Oh man, Connor's tried, and I've never been that angry.
You lucky dog. You just haven't lived unless you've been yelled at in multiple languages. Anyway, that's a hard one to follow. That was a great answer. I actually would like to circle. I think for me, totally ditto what Sarah's saying there. But I think I'll go back to that thing that we were talking about for preparing for childbirth, and that they kind of show you the how this whole thing works. You can kind of see it from the start. From day one. I won't go fully like crazy Descartes, day zero, and whether we're innate knowledge, all that stuff. But I will say that, the inner workings of the human experience is pretty amazing. But by the same token, just the fragility of it all and the exposure to that at the same time is like, oh, Jesus, we really are just monkeys on a space rock. Like, whose idea was this? And that kind of existential dread that comes along with it, and you're invited into the thoughts of like, what happens to him after I'm gone, and I am going to be gone one day, things like that. So it kind of, it's Pandora's box, I think is, I'll take that one. But in the same way of that, what a great story of that, you got to bring the hope with you, that was the one good thing out of all the bad. So, yeah.
Connor, you want to go?
Obviously we have 2 3-year-olds, so the best part for me is like, they're fine. You pass the newborn and oh my God, they're grabbing things. They're trying to walk. They're going to fall over and break their skull. Now they're toddlers. We go, we run, we have fun. I love the why. Like, Huxley far more than Evie. He's like, why is this? We went out yesterday. He's like, where are we now? What's this area? Where are we? I'm like, we're in front of the bank. But I have to get money. I love the why stage because, it gives me a chance to go into all that weird knowledge that Kobe's made me stop telling her, realistically. So now I have something to unload on. The bad part for me is like Evie has flatly worked out that there is going to be very little consequence. Like, she hates sitting on the step. You can do various things, but she's worked out that no one's going to beat me, and I'm going to survive that consequence. So I can just say no to things. I'm like, you're supposed to work that out at like
she's
18,
a clever
but
one.
now you're 3. So Giles tell her, and she'll just flatly ignore me. And I start getting louder and louder because that's kind of where I've got to go. Or, you're about to get in trouble. You do the countdown. I hate getting to 3 because then it's like, well, now I've got 4
got nothing to follow that up with. Connor gets to 3 so often, and everyone's just like, what happens after 3?
Right, you're going on the step because that's all I've got. But yeah, that stubbornness and like the feeling that you've started to spiral out of control with, because Evie's not going to get better. She is so strong-willed. Huck's still, because he's just turned 3. She's about to turn 4. He'll probably come to that realization, especially given the demonstration of his sister. But yes, they're fun. Like, I really enjoy being with them. But sometimes, like, he will start doing something like, no, don't do that. No, stop. Evie, stop. All right, you're in trouble. What's 1, 2? Go over and you grab her and you put her on a step, and then she just screams directly in your face. Like, I'm upset with you for being upset with me. That's the problem. The worst bit for me. What I struggle with, I'd say. But yeah, I actually find them a huge amount of fun at this age. I don't want them to leave.
I just love that every story that we tell about a bad toddler always starts with Evie. Never is it a Huxley story.
Well, Huxley, you yell at, and he just sort of stops what he's doing. He puts his head down and he's like, oh. And you can like hear like the sad Disney music. Evie will actually sing the sadness song from Inside Out because she thinks it's going to get her out of trouble. You're like, that is the
Yeah, she does.
Wait. So, God, women, am I right? You know?
Yeah.
Can you make that the snapshot just for Zach and his profile?
Yeah.
I'm getting cancelled so bad.
What about you, Kobe?
I think, yeah, toddlers, man. Oh my God. It's such a roller coaster. I've never been so happy and I've never been so sad and I've never been so angry. I've never been so excited. Like the roller coaster of emotions that you go through with them. I have such joy in sitting down and having conversation with them. I'm a bit like you, Sarah. Like whenever we sit down and they just say the wildest things and you're like a little thinking human, and she comes up with sentences that kind of you have a double take, and they're genuinely, both of them are so funny. Like
they're so funny.
Huxley and I have this bit at the moment where you're supposed to find the bee in this book, and he points to shoes when we're finding the bee, and he just thinks it's the funniest shit he's ever done in his entire life. So now the other day I took him by surprise and I said, there's the bee, and I pointed to shoes. He lost it. So I really like how funny I am to them. Yeah. It really gives me a confidence build. But I just
mess with him, ask him where the shoe is. He doesn't. He's like,
yeah. He's at the boat. It is so funny. But yeah, I think it's the amount of. I still remember Evie was going through a moment, and I've just never been so hopeless in my life. Like she had started this tantrum. And it was like 45 minutes later. And I'd gotten to a point where I was doing things where I was like, oh, this is getting to very, gray edges in terms of trying to stop this behavior. Like, I just wanted to kind of shock her out of it a little bit. And anyway, I'm holding her and I'm devastated. Like, I'm just so at the very top of my patience, my anger, my sadness, the whole 9 yards. And then she headbutts me in the face. Like, this is after 45 minutes of nonstop. And I literally, I'm just holding her, and I got headbutt in the face, and I just went, and I just started crying my eyes out. And I just yell out, Connor, come and take her, please. It's just that I just never have felt so hopeless ever in my entire life. That I do struggle with, because that, I don't know, me being a person that likes to know that they can do everything, or at least attempt it, and the fact that I cannot work this shit out, or you work something out and it works for like 2 weeks, and you're like, you can nail this, and then they go and change it again, and then they don't want the thing that you've worked out. Like this head fuck, it's just unbelievable. That's what I struggle with.
Yeah,
well, I'd love to share with you what I lean on. Oh, no, go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
I was going to say, actually, you're totally right. The hopelessness is the worst part. Because everything else is moderately in your control, or at least is something. If it's something that hasn't worked, it's something you haven't figured out yet. But once you've gone through everything that you could possibly come up with and still nothing works, that's when it really fucking sucks.
I actually really like that. I'm like, well, I'm going to learn something. But anyway,
Oh,
so
really? Oh, okay.
that's
Well,
one. That's
why.
one layer. But anyway,
Oh,
so
really? Oh, okay.
that's
Well,
one.
that's
That's
why.
one layer. That's one layer. Not in that sense. Not in terms of the
Mm.
pain and the struggle and the 45 minutes. But when you're banging your head against the wall against a problem and it's just not happening, and then eventually, usually, I end up learning something about either myself or the process or whatever. So I'm not speaking to that particular experience, and we've definitely had those with Remy in the past, like things that should be immediately obvious, or like, why isn't this built in? Why isn't this programmed in? This is insane. Like we can't even sleep. Like we come out, we have to learn to sleep. What the? How backwards is that?
Learn to fart?
Like, oh, the fart. Like no part of us works. So yeah, it's quite a phenomenon. And just weird things like if you don't sleep enough, then you don't sleep well. What? Or my favorite was, and I learned it just before Remy, luckily, but I think it's another thing, is I'm really tired. I need to work out so I have more energy. What? Who thought of that? Like it's just what? So there's a lot of those moments, but one, yeah, right. And this whole human experience is what a trip. But the thing that I like to lean on in times like that, when it gets like really tough, and maybe it's just, I'm thankful to be British in this sense of that kind of, laugh or cry, and you're always trying to laugh. But I always think of this one poster, and it's probably the most British thing I can think of in a way. And this is my own personal thing, and I'm going to say this after I've had a cup of tea. But in the London bombings, apparently there was a pub, and the sign on the door, after all the bombings and everything had been blown out, said more open than usual, and I just kind of like, I want to find that moment. You know what I mean? It's morbid. Things are dead. Like there's lots of death and destruction. It's dark as hell. It's literally slushy, to say what Connor said about there was no white Christmas snow there. It's all just like gray slush. And come on, we're living in the era after the cold and horse shit on the road, So like, if we think it's dirty, oh my God, the 1800s is like a whole nother layer. But if you can find that, in the sense of it all, yeah, it's not just a fun. It's kind of like an alternative perspective that's like, does it really matter? Monkeys on a space rock. I've been that scared the living shit out of me when I first heard it, and it took me like a week to get over it. But ever since
I'm
that,
gonna make you a
it's kind of
T-shirt that says
unleashed so
"Monkeys on a
much.
Space Rock."
We are, and I think I got it from Joe Rogan. But like, it kind of summed it all up, and I feel like I can see the world makes so much more sense after that. But yeah, and so that's where I try and get there.
I think it's important to have a partner with a sense of humor. Because if you don't have someone who if you have someone that takes everything so seriously, especially when it comes to toddlers and stuff, that's not a realm you're going to be happy in. Because you've got to laugh at the fact that, I've said the term "get your hand off your vagina" 18 times today, and you're going to have to laugh that I've stood in pee, not only my dog's pee but my child's pee, like getting up in the morning. Like, if you don't laugh at that stuff and get devastated by that, none of it's going to be fun for you. So I agree with that.
Yeah,
very true.
This is actually a really good part you're going to miss. I find that helps me. It's like, they're going to miss this.
I miss stepping
I'm going to miss this. I'm going to look back on when my kids were 3 and go, holy shit, man. Now they're 19 and they're a complete dick. I wish they were 3 again.
Or you never know when it's going to be your last time. I think I read that about a guy that was like struggling with his kid, just wouldn't sleep through the night without coming in his bed, and he's like, this isn't going to last forever, and when's the last time he's going to come to see me when he's having a nightmare,
And Kobe and I discussed that as well.
Lean in.
Yeah.
Connor's favorite one is, this is the last time, when will be the last time that you pick them up? Because there will come a point. I don't think my parents have picked me up in a while, so
yeah,
I think it happens.
Well, it's just the nature of life. One day your parents put you down for the last time, and most of us don't remember when that was.
Or I carry them through the threshold when we move into the house, so you got your kids are going to carry us. That's the plan.
Well,
you wipe my ass. I wiped your ass. I paid it forward. Now you got to wipe mine, buddy.